and have illustrated this negative tendency or trend. Allow me nevertheless to refer to those I find most glaring, like the increase in the various taxes, the increases in the various taxes and the refusal or the ban on the cheaper form or the cheaper used tires. Now, and the cars, the importation of these cheap and more affordable reused tires and vehicles. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the closure of the Wales estate. I've been asked by some of my colleagues to correct Mr. Sharma, the Honorable, when he referred to the cost of tires, new tires being quite affordable. Well, if someone wants to take the choice and buy new tires, hurrah, go ahead. But our estimation and our argument is that on a continuous basis is beyond the reach of the poor man and woman. So we're saying we demand the continued importation of quality used tires, which would be within the take of many persons. Growth and confidence, Mr. Speaker. It was the government benches themselves which indicated that the investment portfolio of Go Invest will decline from some 89 billion in 2015 to a mere trickle of 11 billion in 2016. I think it was the Minister of No Business which incorporated that in his discussion. Now, this revelation itself belies the claim that confidence of the business community in the present dispensation is buoyant. That confidence indeed, Mr. Speaker, is shrinking. These key figures do so clearly demonstrate this. And I refer to the drop from 89 billion to 11 billion. That's a telltale figure. Growth and confidence in the various sectors, too, are not supported by this budget, Mr. Speaker. Adequate provisions are either lacking or do not reflect emerging needs and changes. Key pillars of the economy, rice and sugar, are shunned by the minister in this budget. While in the same document, the Honourable Minister posits that all of the main pillars of the economy are in trouble, and more alarmingly, in trouble simultaneously: rice, sugar, bauxite, mining. Still no relief measures in the budget, no reprieve whatsoever. In the meantime, the social consequences are dire and tragic. The gloomy circumstances are so suffocating that the focus of the suicide epidemic has shifted to the rice-growing areas of the Essequibo coast. Not only has the number of suicides there increased, but the number of recruited unsuccessful attempts and repeated attempts have also increased. This is a new, glaring, commonly recognized reality. The government of Guyana, in the meantime, has officially refused any responsibility or obligation to the rice industry. What a shame. The Blackbush polder a few years ago, that is to say, Mr. Speaker, in the 80s and up till the mid-90s, used to be the capital of suicide in Guyana. The area was depressed. The single-access road practically impassable except by tractor. No electricity, no recreation facilities, save and expect the ever too many rum shops present. This change with economic and cultural changes introduced by the PPPC from 92 onwards. The main road, though a continuing challenge, was upgraded significantly. Rice issues were addressed, the hospital was upgraded and staffed with doctors and nurses and other health workers. The community spaces were upgraded and the administration engaged the grassroots religious and cultural organizations. The suicide tag receded. Unfortunately, the focus has now shifted to the economically depressed Essequibo coast. Suicide is a complex issue. It demands, Mr. Speaker, the multiple action of multiple sectors, or should I say, it demands multiple sectoral action. The root cause of the Essequibo economic depression, Mr. Speaker, of the economic depression has not been addressed by this government. The overarching issue of rise in problems in Essequibo has not been addressed. There's need for urgent intervention, and this depression of the economic scene on the Essequibo coast belies the claims by Minister Jordan of stimulating growth. There's simply no end to the tunnel, no light at the end of the tunnel in Essequibo. Urgent state intervention is needed to address the overarching rice problem. The measures recommended by, and that is on a reflection of the suicide wave in Essequibo, we link it direct to the feeling of parents of being impotent, unable to provide for their children, and on the other hand, too many Essequiboan children developing a feeling of helplessness and being a burden themselves to their hard-pressed children. This budget will batter, bruise, belittle all Guyanese with the exception of a few vested interests and the upper echelons of the coalition. Note already the special provisions, the new approach they have to negotiating with themselves salary increases. This budget will batter, Mr. Speaker, bruise and belittle all Guyanese with the exception of a few vested interests and the upper echelons. On page 57 of the budget speech, the Honorable Minister claims, the Honorable Minister Jordan claims credit for the provision of some 28 billion or 10.9% of the 2016 budget to the health sector, a modest increase over the 2015 level of 22.1 billion or 9.5% of the 2014 budget for health. But let me say this, Mr. Speaker. Being able to use these monies or lay hands on such glorious sums is welcomed by this side of the House. But at the same time, we need to look to see how we got there. Let's reflect a little bit and even go back to what we discussed during the last budget debate. I had pointed out that when we took office in '92, we could afford, the PPPC could afford a health budget of less than 1%, just around 1%, because at that time, as I said, and I'm quoting from my last budget speech, budget intervention, rather, the PPPC had inherited an economy which could only afford less than 1% of the then People's National Congress budget for the health vote. That was way back in '92. But now has bequeathed the economy or the administration, that is the AFC administration, an economy which allows Honorable Mr. Jordan to allocate a whooping 10.5%. That was last year's budget. The same argument stands. Although we're already seeing the decline, for example, trouble in rice, sugar, and bauxite, those sums that we were able to put at their disposal still allow Mr. Jordan, the Honorable Minister of Finance, to put so much into health. We are happy, while at the same time reflect on certain decline in the area of health. We are happy that we have been able to now discuss in this House not a 1% for health budget as we inherited in '92, because remember then the economy was ruined. There was no rice industry. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Housing had been scrapped. Somebody was asking about housing. We would like to remind you that the house lots that you are discussing were all 190,000 distributed by people like the Honorable Indra Chandrapal and other ministers of health. The Ministry of Housing was reinvented under the PPPC. That's to remind the media, the public, and of course my colleagues over that way. And at the same time to pat our colleagues over this side of the aisle on our shoulders. So Mr. Speaker, we inherited a broken economy and we brought it to this state where Mr. Jordan, correctly so the Honorable, can boast that he's put so much into health. We thank him. But at the same time, we would like to recognize that, as he said in his the very first on page 57, I think it is again, on his very first statement, his very first lines, he said that they are going to be, that the APNU AFC administration, the health aspect of it, the health ministry, will embark on implementing Health Vision 2020. Well, last year he told us that they were already implementing it, while last year indicating or insinuating that it was their invention. And he took, the Honorable Minister of Health, Mr. Dr. Norton, took umbrage with me taking claim for this. This document has been in vogue since 2013. So last year, they claimed that they were implementing it. Then this year, they claimed that they embarked on implementing Health Vision 2020. This is, of course, a sleight of hand. This, of course, is implying that they have hoping that the Guyanese public and probably the international community would have forgotten over the past year almost, since we met here to discuss the previous budget, that they had presented the PPPC plan already. So they're not embarking on implementing this plan. This plan has been rolling out for some time. We are happy, but at the same time we're sad. We're noting, as the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Priya Manikchan said, when she analyzed the approach of the APNU AFC to the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, sorry, her sector, she said that they had plagiarized the entire package of plans from the Ministry of Education, but they were poor implementers. That's what makes me sad. We're happy that you're stealing this. We're happy that you're stealing this. And I know I'm borderline here with parliamentary language, Mr. Speaker, so please bear with me. But at the same time, we are sad. We're saddened.
Remember, if you know you're on the borderline, you shouldn't try to fall off.
My apologies, they're plagiarizing.
Perhaps you should step over the line and go the other way.
Okay, okay, thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, they're plagiarized hook and sinker, stock and barrel, and hook, line, and sinker, and bait. And of course, they've totally taken it over. We are happy. It shows that we are doing or we're doing what was correct. It vindicates us. As I've come to the specialty hospital just now, another joke, another very sick joke that we've been presented with by this new administration. But we've indicated, and I'll take pleasure in waving this document once again, our document. But we're sad by the fact that they are not developing, they're not adding to. Like, for example, the specialty hospital. It's going to be the same specialty hospital we get in after years of delay by people like the Honorable Mr. Ramsarran, a special enemy of that project.
I remember you have 2 minutes remaining.
Okay. So, Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, could I please ask for the honourable members 2 minutes plus his 5 minutes still left him? Thank you.
So, Mr. Speaker, we would like to point out that, for example,
Honourable member, you have an additional 5 minutes. You will speak for a total of 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You're so kind. Now, Mr. Speaker, the derailing of our program or the lack of initiative to add to it alarms us. Let's just take, for example, Mr. Speaker, the recent threat, the emergent threat. It's not recent because it's been around for months. The viral disease, the Zika virus. We've noted, for example, in this present budget, a very poor response in terms of provisions, additional provisions. For example, mosquito destruction or vector destruction should be key and critical. What have we found? Check it yourself, and during the line-to-line discussion, line-item discussion later next week, you'll see it further. Only 2 regions, and not the central ministry, is going to be equipped with minuscule amounts of monies to purchase fogging equipment. Region 1 and Region 10. None other. And if you check it, in one case, I think it's about $19 million, but that is lodged together, bundled together with about 14 other items besides fogging machines. That is to say, good people, especially the technical people, the money that will finally fall to the lot of fogging machines are things to fight the Zika virus and the mosquito will be minuscule. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. What it means, Mr. Speaker, and good colleagues, especially the technical people in the room, in the chamber here, it means that they're relying on the spray cans, the fog machines, and the other equipment the PPPC invested in late 2014 without. But that's correct. That's correct. But the point is being missed. There is nothing additional. The Honorable Whitaker gave a cause to be given to the 65 NDC spray cans. That was only an initial step. You needed to get more, especially if you're going to be fighting such a vicious enemy as the Zika virus. You have failed to do so. That's the point I'm making. If you were to look at it, for example, centrally in the central ministry, there's a very good investment, lots of money to be invested, nothing for vector control. That is a sick situation. Sick. Especially when we are seeing, if I look at the newspapers here, there's a good report, government steps up fight to keep out Zika. Minister comments promises robust campaign. Guyana Chronicle, Thursday, February 4, 2016. This virus has been around in Brazil and our pandemic environment for several months. Now they are getting off the step. Now. And besides that, Mr. Speaker, I am emphasizing this budget is unimaginative in reaching out to fight that battle in a more robust fashion. Especially when we come to think that some of those equipment that Mr. Whitaker would have caused to be bought by the Ministry of Local Government in those days, I think it's now styled the Ministry of Communities, would have been used and used. These are equipment that are continuously used. And as he said then, that was just the beginning. Unfortunately, the fresh approach says that once the PPPC did it, it's the correct way, we don't have to add to it. That's wrong, that's just the beginning. And I want to say, especially to the honorable two doctors in the Ministry of Health, you need to sit before this budget is signed on to, you need to sit with your Minister of Finance and change this situation. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You cannot have, and it's unfortunate that I hear the giggling and the sniffling. This is a serious business. Babies are being born in mass with microencephaly. Now, the Honorable Norton seemed to not recognize, and he was even going on a collision course with WHO PAHO when they declared that there was a pandemic situation. He unfortunately equated the presence of one only confirmed case with us not being in trouble. That was very bad from a public health perspective. I'm certain that his well-schooled and intelligent and well-learned chief medical officer has been able to convince him to the contrary. I want to convince him that you need to spend some of that money, Honorable Jordan, some of that windfall. I'm told it's as much as 40 billion from the drop in prices. You need to spend it not on salary increases for yourselves only. That's good. Go ahead with that. But in this case, even if you're going to spend it on something for Zika, I'm willing to forgive you. But spend some of those billions on doing the following.
Honorable member, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. You need, for example, to get the mosquito nets, the special treated mosquito nets, to every single Guyanese woman who is pregnant. Every single Guyanese woman who is pregnant. And the indication that they're continuing is somewhat disingenuous because there's no indication that they ever started. My impression is that when we started to demand that, they suddenly found the resources to do it. Tell us how many, when you started, and so on. We need that every single pregnant woman get one of those nets. And of course, and the men have to fight for this too. And of course, the repellent, free of cost. And then we need to widen that scope to include every single childbearing woman in Guyana. Every single. We have the monies. What are you doing with it? That is why I say this budget is unimaginative. That is why I say while we are happy that you have plagiarized, taken hold, everything on board of our plan, we are displeased, and displeased on behalf of the Guyanese public, especially in this case the pregnant women, how you are rolling out the practical aspects of it. So, Mr. Speaker, those are some of the things I would have liked to bring to your attention. And at the same time, we would like to look at other issues. The specialty hospital now, Mr. Speaker, is suddenly back on the table. Suddenly back on the table. And what I noticed is that they are finding all excuses why they should put it back on the front burner. We welcome this. But at the same time, we'd like to point out that it is indicative of vindication of our stance. It's indicative of the confusion in the camp of the AFC APNU coalition, and the public needs to judge them on this. It's going to be by far more costly, Mr. Speaker.
Your time is up.
Thank you.